I was just,
Sorry, forgot that.
oh, no, we're good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, yeah, money is just one of my favorite topics, and we all know that now is the time to not be shy about money, and more money in the hands of women is only better for society. So here we go. Uh, I If you could just close your eyes for a moment while I start my presentation, the whole transition, I don't have my second monitor right now. So if you could pray, please close your eyes and I'll tell you when to open them. I'll have my presentation going. Okay, Berlin, are we there? Okay, everybody, we're ready to rock and roll. Thank you for that. Okay, here we go. As Berlin mentioned, I'm a financial consultant and coach. I'm an accredited financial counselor. That means that as an accredited financial counselor, that training took a test, 1,000 hours of experience. That is in the personal finance realm. My business finance realm experience comes from 16 plus years as a solopreneur. Financial blogger. I love to write. I'm also a sign language interpreter. So when you see my hands moving about, they are making sense. I'm not Italian. Full-time RVer and a lover of creme brulee. I just want to put out there that money can be confusing, emotionally charged, frustrating. So if everybody's willing, I'd like to start with a tapping exercise. Tapping is an emotional freedom technique, and it will just put us in a space of calm with money. If you haven't tapped before, I'm just going to show you the placements really quickly. I will vocalize them out loud as well as share them on the screen, but the way tapping works is I will state, and then you, if you're in a place where you can say it out loud in repetition, that would be great. So our karate chop point is here, and we'll just be tapping kind of on that meatier part. Then we've got our eyebrow, which is kind of like right where your eyebrow starts. Side of the eye is at the end of our eyebrow with our temple, under our eye, under our nose. Our chin is just kind of right where that crevice is. And then chest varies. I like to just do one hand, so I'm kind of getting across the whole chest. Some people like to tap on each side of the sternum. Some people like to cross their hands and tap, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And then under our arm, like right where our bra strap would hit, and then top of the head is right down the center of our head. So again, I'll be tapping with my left hand and moving my mouse with the right hand. So let's see how talented I can be in this moment. All right, here we go. Starting on our karate chop point. I'm gonna say what's on the screen and then you go ahead and repeat it. Even though I'm not perfect with money, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm not perfect with money, I love and accept myself. Last time. Even though I'm not perfect with money, I love and accept myself. Eyebrow. There's so much to think about and it can feel overwhelming. Side of the eye. Money doesn't feel natural to me. Under the eye. Money invokes something in me. Under the nose. All the stress and anxiety around money. On the chin. What if I could let some of that go? Collarbone. I'm doing the best I can. Under the arm. Maybe things can change. Top of the head. I am ready for things to change. Eyebrow. I feel calm and relaxed thinking about money. Side of the eye. I begin to let go of the stress of money. Under the eye. I feel safe and can relax when thinking about money. Under the nose. I choose to relax and let go now. Under the chin. I am releasing my limiting beliefs around money. Collarbone. I'm letting go of stress around money. Under the arm. The more stress I release, top of the head, the more I create the reality I want. We can put our hands down, deep breath in, deep breath out. Okay. Thank you for doing that with me. Thanks for just level setting and getting into a space where we start getting comfortable with money. How did that go for everybody? Is tapping new? Did it do anything exciting for you? Okay, good. Glad. Um, Folks saying that it was relaxing and they liked it. Yeah, very grounding. Excellent. Okay. All right. So let's dive in to some foundational items here when it comes to money. I like to talk about money in different stages as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner. I don't know how everybody identifies. If you could maybe put that in the chat, I would love to know if people identify as a freelancer, a side hustler, entrepreneur, small business. The labels that we use for ourselves vary greatly. So I'd just like to take a peek at that if you're willing to share. Oftentimes, when we're first starting, that flow of money for us is our personal and our business are just all in one little space, mixing about, and we're only inside of one checking account and we're trying to keep track of what's what. That's totally normal. If this is the stage that you're still in, we're going to work you out of that stage and into some further stages, but just know that that is a normal place for most people to start. So you're not alone if that's where you are. So foundational item number one is to have separate bank accounts, a business and a personal. And one thing I want to point out, this little action item there is if this isn't something that you do currently, the action item says, okay, this is my time to make a reminder for myself as an action item. Get a separate bank account established. So what's important to know is that it doesn't have to be an official business checking account, because sometimes within a bank, if you say, oh, hey, I want to open a business checking account, there's different forms, they want to ask different questions, they want to see your paperwork, like your LLC organization paperwork and all of that stuff. That does not have to be the case yet for you. You can say, I need a secondary personal checking account, and you can use that, and that's just fine. That's still a way to separate the two without having to get into the business accounts. Okay, so stage one of money is everything's mixed together. Stage two of money, what do we see is different here? Yeah, okay. So the difference is we're separating, we're paying our expenses out of our business account and we're paying ourselves out of our business account. So our personal account is now in its own little space. That's where we pay ourselves to, but we're paying our expenses and we're paying ourselves out of that business checking account. Okay, so action item. You're going to pay all of your business expenses from this secondary checking account. And if you are like, oh, Melissa, my personal money is still funding some of my business, that's fine. So what you'll do is you'll transfer money from your personal to your business and then pay your expenses from there. We want to be able to keep track of what our business is spending. And the only way to really see that and to create that separation is to pay your business expenses out of that checking account. Again, whether or not you have to transfer personal money to spend, that's fine. You will get to a place where your business is able to make enough to cover those expenses. But so this is stage 2, making sure all of your business expenses are paid out of that checking account. Okay, so another quick review. We're paying our expenses, we're paying ourselves. All right, what do you notice with stage 3? Taxes. Yes. If somebody hasn't already officially welcomed you to tax season, here I am to do so. Welcome to tax season, people. We are in it. We are in the thick of it right this moment. And I want to just touch a little bit on when we think about business taxes. There are so many variables that go into how much we set aside. And if you're not quite sure even where to start, this 20 to 30% is really just a rule of thumb. It's an option to say, okay, I don't know exactly where to start. 20 to 30 is a great place. When we're thinking about our taxes and how much we have to pay in, that payment takes into account how many expenses we had, if there's any W-2 income, whether you file separately or whether you file jointly with a partner or spouse, whether you file or if you file as married but still jointly, like all of those things come into play. So it really won't be until you get with your tax professional where they can give you an exact estimate of what to pay. So this is just a way to get yourself started. The IRS, if you don't pay on a quarterly basis, you will be assessed a fine for that. So the way they say it is anybody who's got a income of $1,000 or more, right? So if your business is net negative, then the IRS, that doesn't apply to you. But if your business is net positive, at least $1,000 or more, that is the time in which you need to be paying your quarterly taxes. So again, 20 to 30% is a rule of thumb to set aside. All right. So based on that, is this equation true? Gross revenue, that means everything your business brings in, minus your expenses, becomes your owner's pay. Is that true? LOL, I wish. I know. Me too. Obviously, that's false because we just talked about the fact that we can't forget about setting aside money for taxes. So let's talk about where do we store that money when we're setting aside for taxes. So we talked through setting up a business checking account, but we also need to have a business savings account. Now, when we think through, all right, what type of savings account do we utilize? I want to just touch on a standard savings account that you have at your bank is always a good option because it's quick, it's easy to get your money from, transferring it to and from doesn't take a lot of extra effort. So the least amount of friction in order to make sure that happens is what I want you to consider. But I also want to think about the fact that a standard savings account right now is earning 0.0% interest, 0.04% interest. So if, for example, you're setting aside $1,000 a month for taxes, across the whole year, you're going to be bringing in about $1.20 for your interest. That's not very much. But again, if that's the easiest for you to transfer to and from, then that's fine. That's an option. Another option that folks are utilizing, high yield savings account. So a high yield savings account gives us the opportunity to make more interest on our money. So right now, about 4% is average. Now, we know that with interest rates, it fluctuates. So 4%, it won't always stay there. Sometimes I've seen it go as low as 2%. But again, 2% is still more than 0.04. But right now, with it at 4%, if you're setting aside $1,000 a month for taxes, then you can earn approximately $240 a year in interest. And to say that is obviously inside of the account, it would be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, pay your taxes. $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, pay your taxes. So that doesn't grow continuously, but that still gets you to approximately $240 a year if you follow that. Now, the thing with high yield savings accounts is it does take a few extra days for your money to process from one point to the other. Some of the larger banks will have a high yield savings. So I think maybe Chase has one, American Express has one. I'm a credit union user, and so we do not have one of those. So I set up a separate high yield savings account. I transfer the money there, and then 5 days before I'm going to pay my taxes, I go in, process to get it transferred back to my business, and then pay from there. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question. So for high yield savings accounts, don't you normally need to have a minimum amount in that type of account?
Yeah, that's a great question. You don't. Correction. Some require that, yes. Many others do not. So, based on shopping around and seeing what's available, that's not a requirement for all of them. That was a great question. And some, like the minimum of $100, right? So you could keep $100 in there and then go from there. Yeah. And there are some that require like $1,000 minimum. And so again, if that's where you want to keep your money, then you just know that, okay, I've got to keep that $1,000 in there and then the rest I can use to, yeah, shop around. Exactly. Okay. So that was an action item. If you don't have a business savings account, getting one set up is going to be a great start for you. Okay, we talked about that. Setting up a business savings account, use that to set aside for taxes. All right, so quick review. We've got money flowing into our business account. We're setting aside money for taxes. We're paying our expenses. We're paying ourselves. That's stage 3. So let's take a look at stage 4. What difference do you notice here? Reserves. Item number 2. Okay, so let's dive into what that means. We all know that entrepreneurship comes with the roller coaster of, I've had a really great month, and oh boy, that one wasn't so good. And then, oh, that month was incredible. And like, ooh, that took a dip. And we ride that roller coaster. The whole goal with our money is to stabilize that roller coaster. So that way, when we're paying ourselves, our personal funds don't also go like this, right? We want to make it feel like, okay, this is a nice little train ride through the country versus just getting off the Wild Thing roller coaster, which I don't ride roller coasters, so I don't know what that's actually like. but it's an analogy that we all can understand. So let's talk about stabilizing our variable income. On the left, we've got an example of what it might look like. 1 month I'm bringing in 57, then 42, then 65, 75, then I'm all the way down to 22. And so our goal is we want to figure out how we can get it to this stable line. Okay, action item. I want you to take what is your average gross revenue. And depending on how much of a time frame that you have, if you have a whole year, I want you to look at a year. If you've got 2 months, I want you to look at 2 months. But I want you to find what is your average gross revenue that your business is bringing in. And quick question for everybody. Do you have access to that information? Are you keeping that in a spreadsheet? Are you using an accounting system? Just kind of getting an idea from folks. Or if you're like, I have no idea what that number is, Melissa, I would need to go to my bank statements. That's fine too. Just checking to see kind of where folks are on. Okay, QuickBooks. Yep, QuickBooks for your last 12 months of invoices. That's good. Yep. Yeah. Sarah said she's kind of sorting out how to organize everything. And that definitely is a part of the process, is really trying to figure out where to put everything. So starting with a spreadsheet, I highly recommend starting there, even if it's just a 2-column spreadsheet with what's your income and what's your expenses for each month. So that way you've got an idea of what's flowing in and out of your business. All right, so here comes the fun part. On those high months, you're going to be putting that extra money into a regular savings account. Now, I'm not talking high yield here because you need to have access to this money quickly in the time frame in which you need it. So high months, money goes into a regular savings account. This is what we call our cash reserves. And then on the low months, we're pulling from that. So that way, those high months where oftentimes folks just tend to pay themselves more, it's fantastic, right? It feels incredible. But then when you hit the 2200 month and you're like, wait a second, my household needs more than that. We got to make sure that that is available and ready. So putting that into our cash reserve account is the way to make that happen. So on high months we put in, and then on low months is when we use it. Any thoughts around that? Is this a new concept to folks? Is this, I'd just like to hear people's thoughts around this. Okay, something that we'd like to build out for this year. Excellent. New for you, great. Yeah, it does require discipline. That's absolutely true. It definitely takes it takes us kind of reframing to say everything that comes into the business doesn't just get to our personal checking account, right? Like we've got to be methodical on the moving pieces. And then once you build the habit around that, you'll definitely feel like, oh, okay, this is something that can be worked into my regular momentum. I meant to say something on taxes really quickly. I'm going to go back to taxes for just 1 second. When we think about our taxes, how often, if you don't yet, I want you to just kind of take a guess, but how often do you think setting aside taxes? Every time you get money deposited, once a week, once a month? Like how often would analyzing how much to set aside for taxes should be in your habit with your money? Okay, a percentage of every income deposit, at the end of each month. Yeah, so all that to say is there is no right or wrong answer. It's what works best for your personality and for the habit that you can build. I know some folks with every deposit, they just do it. Let's say you sell a higher ticket item. Sure, great. That's easy enough. If you sell a lower ticket item, let's say you do digital downloads or something and it's, $7 per transaction, you'd maybe wait a week and see how much you got coming in during that week and then put a percentage aside. Like Berlin mentioned, she does it at the end of each month, takes a look at how much she brought in and then set it aside for the month. So just to think about when you're creating your financial habits, where do you want to put that into play? Do you want to just do it on a daily basis for a week to get yourself used to it? Do you want to do it on a weekly basis to get yourself used to it? Do you want to, do it at the end of each month? Just kind of figuring out when we're building our financial system, it's not just the flow of our money, but it's the whole ecosystem of how often we're going to look at it, how often we're going to be moving pieces around. So I want you to be thinking about that when you think about your financial system. It's like, let's think about the whole ecosystem of money and how often we want to be getting in there and making those transfers, etc. Okay, my apologies for skipping over that the first time. All right, so where were we? Okay, so the stage 5. Yes, there is a stage 5, but I just have to say that comes from my program, Getting Comfy with Your Business Finances. I can't reveal all of my secrets right here, but when we get into stage 5 and stage 6, it's when we start thinking about this. I'm setting up this business not only for my life, but I'm also setting up this business for my future. So we want to think about PTO, we want to think about retirement, we want to think about all of those things and how do we calculate and make sure that our business is offering us those benefits and not just moving money around, but really creating, again, that stability and creating what's good for our future and what's good for us now. Okay, I want to just pause there on anything that we've talked about. Any questions so far, stage 1 through 4, how we move our money, how we build habits, all of that good stuff.
I have a question. So you mentioned different savings accounts. Like what do you recommend as the best way to organize? Like, you have your tax savings, you have the reserves fund, you have health and like all the other things you just mentioned. How do you recommend organizing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my favorite, so for me, the high yield savings account that I use is with Wealthfront, and they allow categories inside of that Wealthfront account. So it's all within one system, but I can label, here's my emergency fund, here's my taxes, and I can see clearly which is in each of those. So that is an option that works for me. Other people like to just have different checking accounts. So if your bank, like, so for example, my credit union, I feel like I can open unlimited checking accounts and savings accounts without getting charged for it. So depending on what your organization allows to happen, go ahead and just open more. So that way you can label them each, you can see them clearly. And then, of course, you always have the option of just having one. And then I would recommend keeping a spreadsheet to say, okay, inside of this account right now, there's, $4,300. 2,000 of that is for taxes here, and just labeling and make that part of your financial routine when you're going back and looking through your books and updating that spreadsheet to say, okay, that's how much I have in this account. Did I move money around? Is this still accurate? And then updating that spreadsheet as to how much is inside of your savings account.
Is there a way to like, I've heard of all of the different checking accounts and everything, and that makes sense. It's like a digital envelope method, but it feels so overwhelming to like have all of those things and then have to be, like do it all. So is there a way to automate any of that?
Yeah, so I have been I have been scouring to try to find I found one entity, and unfortunately it's not a US entity, so I'm a little hesitant um to try it myself, but ideally, right, we would have an option to say, okay, this much came in, kick 20% here, kick this much here, kick this much here. And unfortunately, I haven't found anything that I love. Most of the savings entities will allow you to do like a dollar amount. So that's fine and dandy, but the percentage is really what we're looking for. I did create a calculator that I put that I use where I'll put the deposit total in, and then it'll kick out like how much I should be depositing for each. But yeah, there's a lot to be desired in the financial industry with that. Berlin, were you referencing Profit First by chance?
No.
No. Okay. Profit First is something that folks tend to use. I find it too complicated, especially if you're like, oh, I don't want to have all those checking accounts and savings accounts. Profit First recommends, I think, having like 7 or 8 different ones that you move about. If your brain works in that process, I would say that maybe check out the book Profit First, just to see if that matches with you. But if having more accounts is not something that you're interested in, then maybe shy away from that. All right, Sandy asked about eMoney Advisor. I haven't ever used it. It links all your accounts together for reporting and tracking. Sandy, do you mind elaborating? Is that like, it's not an accounting system because I haven't ever heard of
Hi.
that.
Yeah. So anyone can sign up for it. I think it's emoneyadvisor.com. I'll look it up. I can put it in there. I'm retired. I'm different than you guys, and I worked on a W-2 my whole life, but
Mm.
I'm very good with money, and I did all of these things with my W-2. And now I'm retired and I have money everywhere. I'm one that doesn't want my bank to go under, so I follow the FDIC deposit. And everyone, you guys are absolutely correct. And I'm retired now, so I have a lot of time. But I have many different accounts at many different institutions to protect my money is my, and I have an Excel spreadsheet and I do it manual. I'm kind of old school. So every single month I check where every account is. So I do now, since I retired, I have a financial advisor and he's consolidated everything under this one thing. But now I have eMoney Advisor. And it's pretty cool because what I'm doing on my spreadsheet manually, it's all in there. And you can link in your credit cards and your mortgage payment, and it adds it all up. So you don't set up 5 checking accounts in there. What you have set up, you link it in there, and then it tallies everything for you daily, all the time. Again, versus I do it on a spreadsheet. And so that's what I know about it. It is really helpful. Every time I log in, I think, okay, why am I spending my time on this spreadsheet? I just do because I hate to call it my age, but I like doing it. So it might be something. Yeah, there you go. That's probably it that you guys look into. I don't know if it's free. I get it for free currently. I don't know if it's for free or not, but it is. It has everything. And you can put also just lastly, like, what are my retirement goals? And it'll show me Like I've got the nursing home on there. And so am I on track to get there? Because you're
Mhm.
absolutely correct. You have to look at building your future. So it really ties in everything. So for me, Social Security, blah, 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 blah. So there you go.
Yeah. So, Sandy, it seems like this is more personal finance connected.
Yeah, no, well, no, you can put anything in there. You'd have to go log in and see. You can put anything in there that you want, and you can
Mm.
call it what you want. Again, it's not the accounts for you.
Mhm.
You would just have to see it. You can call them what you want. You can call it my business income. And because I'm starting a business, that's why Berlin knows me on these calls. And
Yeah.
it will show in there that business income. I don't know if that makes sense. You just have to log in. It may not be what you guys want, but now that I've been exposed to, I'm like, oh, wow, here's everything I've been doing on my spreadsheets.
Yeah. Yeah. I will take a peek at it. And maybe I'll post something in the greenhouse community once I'm able to peek. My hesitation is inside of a tracking system that does both personal and business. Um, Sometimes things get lost in the shuffle. So yeah, I'll take a peek at that and I will post about it in the greenhouse community just to get, because obviously having a place for retirement and all that stuff, like that's right, to be able to see that in one spot, like that's incredible. Berlin, what accounts would you recommend having? Yeah, checking account, savings account, tax account, health, anything else. So the reserves, I definitely recommend having a reserves fund. And I also recommend having an emergency fund. And then I recommend in your checking account creating a cushion. So we all have um, different risk aversion. And so I talk to some people that say, I don't ever want to see my checking account drop below $5,000. I don't ever want to see it drop below 2,000. Some people say, I don't, if it gets down to 100, but I know money's coming back in, that's fine. That's fine for me. So establishing a cushion as your baseline. So that way, you know, like, okay, how I move my money, I don't ever want to see that get below X, whatever that cushion is that you decide. That answer your question? Awesome. Um, the Getting Comfy with Your Business Finance program, it really is determining what system is best for you and your business and your personality. So whether that's spreadsheets like Sandy likes to do, or whether that's selecting an accounting system, QuickBooks is an option, Xero is an option, Wave is an option. So different accounting systems, that's really kind of, you get to see what's the best for you, your business, and your personality. Okay, let's flip the script a little bit when we're talking about money. Who's seen this? Money doesn't grow on trees. Is that something that someone has said to you, or have you seen somewhere? And feel free to come off mute too if that's easier. Yeah, Sandy said that's my age group. Yeah, I hear that. I Yeah, always heard it from my mom. I heard it from my parents too. Money doesn't grow on trees. So I just said, I don't know, money's made of cotton and linen and it carries the energy that I give it. I'm That sentiment of money doesn't grow on trees is like, don't use too much of it, right? Because we can't just go out in our backyard and pick off a leaf of money. But that gives us a negative connotation when it comes to money. So money is fairly neutral in regard to what it's made of, and it carries the energy that I give it. Okay, let's do another one. Rich people are greedy. What would you do to flip this script? What would you say instead of rich people are greedy? Rich people are smart with money. Okay. Here's what I'd say. Greedy people are greedy, and money has nothing to do with it. Money doesn't inherently make someone good, bad, indifferent, right? You are who you are, and the money piece just can highlight that. So if you're greedy and you get more money, you just get greedier. But if you are a giving, loving, and you get more money, then the world gets to see the giving, loving of more money. Yeah. Okay, how about this one? Oh, shoot. I already put my answer in there. Sorry. That's a fumble on my part. I hear this a lot. I'm asking for too much money. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, we are deciding the prices of what we're offering, right? We're not working for a business that has priced the product. That's us. We are pricing our products and our services. Have you heard people say this in your network? Like, oh, I don't know if I'm charging too much, or I'm afraid to raise my prices. Is that a conversation that you've experienced people having? Yeah, always. Yeah. And flipping the script on that, I'm a business owner and I charge what's right for me and my business. To be able to separate, like, so for example, charge your worth. That is a phrase that I am on an absolute mission to abolish from the entrepreneurial world. Because when we say to somebody, charge your worth, then all of a sudden we've got to go, what am I worth? Like you want to say, I'm worth so much, but I mean, we could charge $1 billion and it still wouldn't be what we're worth, right? So detangling our worth from what we charge is something that I highly recommend you do from the very beginning and take who you are and your value out of it. But do your pricing based on the market, what people are willing to pay, market research, asking questions. What are other people in your industry paying? How much knowledge value do you bring? All of those things, and not so much your worth. Okay, we've reached the end. I have two options. If you're interested in kind of a one-on-one 101 level with taxes, like what write-offs you should consider, when to pay your quarterlies, how we're taxed. A lot of people have the misconception that we're taxed the same on every single dollar. So if you're inside of the 24% bracket or the 32% tax bracket, that does not mean you're taxed that amount on every single dollar. It's actually a tiered system. So I break that down so you can see that. That is an option. That's a free guide available. And then, of course, I talked about getting comfy with your business finances. Either one of those QR codes will take you to that place. And now, questions or open discussion about money. I'd love to get your thoughts, get your questions in our last 12 minutes together.
This is really great. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
You mentioned write-offs, which I know is like a never-ending list of things, right? But what are some really common write-offs, or things that we can't write off that maybe we think we could be?
So most common write-offs for us, advertising. So that includes everything from your website, your email address, specific events that you attend. Maybe it's a specific networking event that you attend. All of those are under the advertising umbrella. So we need to be thinking about that. Software obviously is a big one for all of us. Everything from our Zoom to our Calendly, to Dropbox, like all of those things are big for us. Supplies, of course, everything, from our ring light to our mouse to all of those things. Equipment such as our computer needs to be considered. And then mileage, if you're driving to and from. I know a lot of us have home offices, So for example, in my RV, I've got a designated space for my office. It's just a 10 by 11 space in the back of my RV that I get to write off. So I need to keep track of the rent that we pay for places that we go, the electricity that we pay, our phone bill, our internet. And the tricky part with that is for our phone and our internet and those things, we get to pay a percentage of which they're used for our business. So with my phone, I think I write off 80 or 90% is for my business. So it's a little bit tricky because I don't pay for my phone outside of my business expenses because I don't want to be running like I am on a family plan with my husband. And so I'm not running that all through my business because his phone is not a business expense for me and I don't write off the full percentage. So I pay it out of my personal and then have to document that elsewhere that here's what I've covered. And then now I'm writing off 80% of that. Yeah, Sandy said, it sounds like you travel in your RV. Yes, indeed we do. So our residency is South Dakota. They are extremely nomad friendly. We attempted to get residency in Minnesota, which really is our home. Like that's what we call home is Minnesota, but we didn't have an address there. And luckily, South Dakota, they allow you to get residency if you are in the state for 24 hours. So we had to drive just across the border, sleep in a hotel for a night, bring them our hotel receipt, walk into the DMV, gave us a license. Not planned, but South Dakota is a no income state, no income tax state. So it was a 5% like bonus off the bat. Now, again, I'm all for paying taxes. I think that's part of our duty. So I don't like to look at taxes in a negative light, but it was just an interesting little like, okay, this was a surprise we weren't anticipating. Oh. Who do you recommend we talk to specifically about organizing and paying our taxes? Ooh, Sarah, do you mind coming off mute and tell me more about what you're looking for?
Sure. Yeah. So I keep finding people who are like financial advisors or bookkeepers, but all of them tell me that they don't do the taxes.
Mm.
So I think the answer is a CPA, but I don't know for sure. And I've not found anyone who had like a really solid recommendation on who to talk to about like keeping up with your taxes throughout the year.
Yeah, that's great. So if it's just like getting organized and understanding your quarterlies and all of that, like that's definitely something I can do. But when it comes to really understanding like the exact amount for your quarterlies, filing, and all of that, either a CPA or an enrolled agent. So those are the two professionals. Now, there are folks who do specifically tax strategy and they don't do the filing. Tax strategy normally comes into play when you're considering transferring to an S corp or something where it's like really they can help you figure out how to set up payroll and all of that good stuff. So when it comes to a CPA or an enrolled agent, if you are looking for recommendations, I have folks in my Rolodex that I know and trust. Um, a CPA has to be someone in your state. Is that true?
That's what I thought
I'm
as
not,
well.
I'm not, sh I'm not sure that that's because but I use an enrolled agent. My enrolled agent is definitely not in South Dakota. Let me double check that. I don't think that that's true, but I maybe they have to be licensed in that state. Yeah, licensed in the state. Okay, yep, that makes sense. Not physically in that state, but licensed in. Yeah. Yeah. California. Yeah, California. You do pay higher taxes in California. And so Sarah, if you want recommendations of folks, I'd be happy to introduce you. Any
Yeah,
other questions?
Sarah's in the greenhouse, so both of you can connect in there. If that's easier. Um,
Yeah, Sandy, let's hear it. Let's hear your question.
It's really for the group. like if your skill, well, I'll just talk about me. So if my skill is marketing, my skill may not be money and doing the books. That's the challenge of being a solo entrepreneur, right? You're not good at
Yeah.
everything. You're just not. You're
Yes.
good at what you want to sell. And so do you have a formula? What point would it behoove anyone to outsource what everything to someone, whether it's like yourself or a CPA, to get helps and someone do their books every month instead of, because it's a lot, like what Berlin's doing on, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was wondering if there's a time when someone should just pay the money and offload that, outsource it to a third party, we'll say.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's different parts of the spectrum. Now, if you're talking about offloading bookkeeping altogether, then most of the bookkeepers I know say you want to be at least about the 100K range before it makes sense to do that. Now, if you're like, I hate doing this and I just want somebody to take it over and that's a value of yours and you're willing to pay the money to make that happen, then do it sooner. Because I know bookkeepers who will take people on at the 50K range because they're just like, I'm done doing it. I don't want to anymore. But I definitely recommend getting your feet wet and understanding all of it before handing your books off because you want to be able to have that conversation with whomever it is that's taking care of your books because they're going to have questions. They're not going to be the people doing your taxes and all of that. So getting your foundation set, the financial literacy, feel good to go, and then minimum 50K, most of the time about 100K when you're ready to fully pass that off.
Yeah,
Did that answer your question?
it does. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, any final questions? This was really helpful, Melissa. Thank you so much. And everybody had really great questions as well. So yeah, Melissa, did you drop your links so we can connect with you online?
I did not do that. I can grab my. It's just another reminder as a business owner, keeping all of my links in a note that I can just pin has just been an absolute lifesaver. Just like an added tidbit bonus tip there is just I have my website, my Instagram, my threads, my LinkedIn, my program, like all of it just in a notes app so I can burp and copy and paste really quickly. Oh yeah, I am on LinkedIn. Yep. Let me grab that for you. Just one moment. My activity on LinkedIn is definitely a lot less than it is on Instagram. I know that LinkedIn is definitely, they're starting to kind of change the persona. I'm seeing more people like bring their whole selves to LinkedIn, whereas before, in my previous life in corporate, it just felt a little stuffy. But I definitely know that that's transitioning a little bit. So I'm not going to write LinkedIn off quite yet. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I thank you for all the questions. Sandy, thank you for putting that eMoney advisor in there. I'm definitely going to take a peek and look at that. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness. I appreciate your willingness when it comes to talking about money. I had a blast.
Yeah, this was really great. Thank you so much. Yeah. That's it. Thanks
Okay.
everybody for coming. It was really great to see you and see some new faces. And we'll connect with each other online. Have a good day, everybody.
Sounds good. Have a good day, everybody.